With the third pick in the 2017 NBA Draft, the Boston Celtics select Jason Tatum from Duke University.
This is the best case scenario, really. It's rare, but when it does happen, it's franchise altering. What am I talking about? Well, each summer we have to go for this, that, this as well, and how could you forget that? Stars get traded every single summer. This typightly ignites a rebuild for their former team. And how the rebuild starts is by trading the star for draft picks, which are important and should show caution for trading, especially for small market teams. However, it is not and should not be the end of the world and can be overrated. Yes. But how did we get here? We can trace this back to one man in specific, a former NBA player who, in fact, used to play for the Celtics, funny enough, and was also a Mormon. Danny Ainge. But no, not back then. Back then. See, Danny, he was good at his job. Damn good. So good, in fact, he pulled this off. Look how good this is for the Nets. They basically get 3 NBA champions for basically nothing. This upcoming season, man, it's gonna be something. Let's see what this is gonna be like. Bring it up here. Oh. Well, they're older, like, yeah. You see? That's gonna be good now. Alright, we're in the playoffs. Let's get this train going. Come on. Oh. Okay, let's rethink this through. We still got 3 good players that we can trade. 2 greatly disgruntled players that will turn out to be nothing. So that was a disaster, but the Nets can still rebuild, right? No. You see, Danny was smart. He realized the true importance of draft capital in a time where it was just shrugged off. See, this forces the Nets to be bad, and they can't even be rewarded for being bad because their picks just go to Boston. When this happens, it set an alarm for every other GM in the league. In a warning to value your picks, especially with each draft class getting better than the last. With even the media especially quick to scrutinize greatly a deal, but it's overreacting. As this Celtics-Nets trade was just a bad trade for the Nets. Here's why. Kevin Garnett is one of the greatest power forwards to ever play. However, following his loan ship in 2008 and following injuries, it was clear he was going into a decline. So yes, his dramatic drop-off was to be expected. And with Paul Pierce, the Nets made the biggest no-no in a trade. Trading for an expiring deal. As a franchise, yes you, it's best to only trade for expiring contracts only if you're in the most dire situation, as quite simply, they're just too unpredictable, especially Pierce, who at the time, we did not know how he'd deal with a change in team environment and culture. Therefore, the Nets shelved their depth and their future for nothing. So this should be an example for why you shouldn't trade picks for stars, right? Right? No. Quite simply, no. This situation happened because it was a bad trade indeed, and should have been seen in a way not because you should trade picks for stars, but instead you should be cautious for what exactly you do trade for. To understand why draft picks are not the be-all end-all, let's look at 3 main teams in dire draft situations and how they can overcome it, as what team will be better to start off with than the Brooklyn Nets. Again. Let's go back to 2022. Nets made an all-in trade the season prior for none other than James Harden, who they gave up key depth, youth, and importantly, a plethora of picks for. Just for him to request a trade and get traded to Philly after an 80-game rental for 2 solid role players who eventually, left for nothing. And oh yeah, Ben Simmons as well, who as of 2023 still is barely playing. So how do the Nets recoup all this picks? Well, they still got 2 other perfectly sound players, which they traded for solid depth, future franchise players, and as many picks as you could even dream of, man. And it's as simple as that. Meaning that this whole 2-year charade with James Harden ordeal, the Nets had a problem. They really did. Let me repeat. With this James Harden situation, the Nets truly and did have the definition that they had a problem. But most importantly, they easily fixed it. And arguably are in an even better situation than they were in before, because they realized they had 2 other star players that they could trade for even more stuff that they could have got from James Harden. Funny enough, however, our next team put themselves into a similar situation. However, just like the Brooklyn Nets, they can get themselves out of that situation by trading their current players. Now, what team am I talking about exactly right now? Well, you probably heard about them recently in NBA news. They're none other than the Minnesota Timberwolves. Which, this problem is not down to the coaching staff. It's not down to any of their multiple players like Ant, Cat, or Mike Conley. It, of course, is down to one man. One man, one trade. Rudy Gobert. As, let's look back. Before Rudy Gobert got traded, the Timberwolves could have been dark horse contenders if they kept this youthful and varied depth. But instead, they gave it up and future picks just for Rudy Gobert, a massive overpay. Which, if we are being honest here, looking back, it's especially sad, as these traded picks would end up being role players to many contenders. But this was given for just Rudy Gobert, and again, could be said a bad trade, as they got rid of key depth for a one-dimensional player. Similar to the Nets, let's look at how they can fix this situation, as the best thing to do is really, when we're looking into the Minnesota Timberwolves' position, there's only one way they can go around this. They need to be stubborn and commit to the trade, because this will increase the value of the team greatly, as if they build on this trade and Rudy's value, this will keep up recouping picks and pieces. They could look at their existing roster and tailor it in order to fit Rudy and his fit within the team. So, yeah. Overall, making the trade a better and hopefully, if worst comes to worst, allows Minnesota to just accept long-term mediocrity until they have their own picks back and not be bad and let some other team enjoy them being bad and the picks that they might get from being bad, just like a certain other team. But no, don't do that. Just trade Cat, okay? If you trade him, you can get some good depth and picks. So finally, this last team we'll look at is kind of an outlier because they simply can just ignore the draft by gaining new talent through free agency and their own location. And we are talking about no other infamous team in the NBA, especially regarding their location, than the LA Clippers. As quite simply, they do not care about draft picks, and realistically, they do not need to either. I mean, look at this. I mean, they gave up a full family worth of picks for Paul George and Kawhi, and constantly, if we look at news articles, are in discussions for their dim future past Kawhi and the Paul George era. Yet, at the exact same time, are also constantly, every year, considered the deepest team in the league, with every single year as well. If you look past the first few years of the Kawhi era, the roster gets replenished with new and beneficial talent, mainly because they're in LA, which is every player's dream city to play for because they're celebrities, and LA is the city of wealth, fame, and culture. And in LA as well, we'll fully be able to experience this overall, especially since there is lower pressure playing for the Clippers than the Lakers. If we can personify this situation right now, let's look at two main guys right now. Both Mason Plumlee and Russell Westbrook are two good to excellent players who opted to come back to LA on greatly team-friendly deals, much less than what they're actually worth, because they wanted to play in LA, which is their home, and quite frankly, they'll be able to enjoy the benefits listed. So yeah, that's why draft picks are overrated. Thanks for watching.